Zyron's claws scraped against the metal floor as he dragged the last cargo crate toward the sorting bay. The dull ache in his left sensory organ never fully went away. It made the world a confusing place. Shapes were half visible, sounds muffled and distorted, like hearing through thick water. The bustling Unity station hummed around him, alive with noise and activity. Traders shouted prices in dozens of languages, and ships docked and departed with mechanical precision. Above him, in the upper decks, wealthy merchants made deals that could affect entire planetary economies. But down here in the lower docks, beings like Zyron simply struggled to survive. He finished stacking the crates and checked his work tablet. Shift over. Finally, some relief. Gathering his few belongings into a worn satchel, Zyron prepared to leave. The path to his small quarters took him through the market district. Normally, he tried to avoid it. Too many bodies, too much noise. His damaged sensory organ made it easy to misstep, easy to attract trouble. Today, he wished he could vanish. The crowd pressed in from all sides. A Felian merchant brushed past him, clicking irritation when Zyron didn't move quickly enough. Two Corn workers laughed at something he couldn't hear clearly. Zyron kept his head down, tried to make himself invisible. Usually it worked. Today it didn't. His shoulder bumped something solid. Zyron stumbled, failing to react in time. His satchel fell, scattering its contents across the floor. He dropped to gather them, muttering apologies that nobody seemed to hear. "Watch where you're going, defect," a harsh voice growled. Zyron froze. He knew that voice. Korvax, the Urgoth enforcer, controlled this level of the station. He and his crew ruled through fear. Station administrators conveniently looked the other way. I'm sorry," Zyron said, keeping his eyes down. "I didn't see my sensory organ." Korvax's boot slammed onto Zyron's scattered belongings, crushing them further. "You, Zyron, are worthless," he sneered. "What use is a blind, deaf worker?" Zyron's hands shook as he tried to gather his things. Other aliens passed by, some glancing over, but none stopping. The strong dominated the weak here. That was how the galaxy worked. Korvax's 3 crew members circled him, towering over the small alien. Each stood twice Zyron's height, muscles built for combat, scales thick enough to repel blades. Zyron's species was fragile, designed for climbing and fine work, not fighting. "Please," Zyron whispered. "I mean no trouble. I must get home." "You exist," one of the crew said, smirking. "That's trouble enough." They laughed. The sound echoed strangely in Zyron's damaged hearing, making him dizzy. Korvax shoved him down. Pain shot through his ribs as he tried to curl into a protective ball. His heart pounded. If they destroyed his sensory organ completely, he would be useless. Station administration would eject him into space. Through blurry vision, Zyron saw other aliens watching. A few looked uncomfortable. Most didn't care. One elderly Corran shook his head sadly but kept walking. Nobody helped. Nobody ever helped. "Enough," Korvax finally said. "Let's take him somewhere private. I want him to learn what happens when he gets in our way." Strong hands grabbed Zyron and dragged him down a maintenance corridor, away from the crowd. Pain radiated from his ribs. Breaths came in short, agonizing gasps. He tried to resist, but his small body couldn't fight against them. Korvax lifted him by his work suit. "Any last words, defect?" Zyron opened his mouth. Nothing came out. What could he say? That his life mattered? Nobody in the galaxy cared about defects like him. Even his own family had abandoned him to station life. Just as Korvax's fist pulled back, a calm voice spoke. "That's enough." Zyron froze. The voice was human, not Urgoth, not anything he recognized. The grip on his suit loosened slightly. "What?" Korvax barked. "I said, that's enough," the voice repeated. Zyron cracked his eyes open. 3 figures stood at the corridor entrance. They were humans, small and fragile compared to the Urgoth, but their stance was firm, their presence commanding. The lead human, a woman with dark skin and tightly pulled back hair, locked eyes on Korvax. 3 stripes on her uniform shoulder marked authority. Her gaze made even the towering Urgith hesitate. "This doesn't concern you, human," Korvax growled. "Walk away." "Can't do that," she replied. Behind her, a younger male human moved to the side, hands ready. A third human, slightly older with a medical kit, knelt near Xiron. Korvax laughed. "3 of you? Against my crew? You humans are as foolish as the rumors say." "Size isn't everything," the woman said. Her smile wasn't friendly. It was deadly serious. Theo, the medic, began checking Xiron's injuries. "Cracked ribs, severe bruising, possible internal damage," he muttered quietly. "You hear that?" the woman asked Korvax. "You're beating a disabled being half to death. And you call it honor?" Korvax sneered. "Honor? This is nature. The weak are culled. That's how the galaxy works." "Not anymore," she said. Xiron's vision blurred again from pain. But for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. These humans, who had nothing to gain, were standing between him and death. Lyra's tactical mind calculated angles, movements, and options. For hostiles, confined space, injured civilian. She stayed calm, ready, but inside, anger boiled. Korvax's crew shifted into aggressive stances, expecting humans to back down. "Jace," Lyra said to the young private. "Call it in." Private Jace Corrin to Defiant. Situation in Maintenance Corridor 7 Beta. Requesting backup and command presence. Korvax's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, human." "No," Lyra said. "You made the mistake when you decided to beat someone to death." Xiron gasped, barely conscious, pain shooting through him. Blood matted his fur, old scars visible beneath his torn clothing. He realized these humans were not here to exploit or harm him. They were here to protect. For the first time, he felt something he thought impossible: safety. Xiron's body shook as he hit the cold metal floor. Pain radiated from his ribs, each breath a struggle. Korvax and his 3 hulking crew members loomed over him, their shadows stretching long in the dim light of the maintenance corridor. "Stay down, defect," Korvax sneered. "This is where broken things belong." Xiron curled into a tight ball, trying to protect his damaged sensory organ. If it was destroyed completely, he would be useless. Ejected into the vacuum of space, that would be his fate. He tried to make himself small, invisible, but the strong didn't care about weakness. They thrived on it. A kick landed in his side. Pain exploded and he gasped. Another kick. Then another. Xiron's world narrowed to pain and survival. He stopped counting the hits. He focused on staying conscious. He had survived worse. He could survive this too. Through his blurry vision, he saw the hallway was lined with watchers. Other aliens passing by. Some looked uncomfortable. Most did not care. One elderly Corrin shook his head, saddened, but continued walking. Nobody would help. Nobody ever helped. "Enough," Korvax said after a pause. But his crew grabbed Xiron anyway. They dragged him deeper into the corridor, away from the occasional passerby. This was worse. Alone, no witnesses, the damage could be permanent. Xiron's satchel fell again, scattering his few belongings. He tried to gather them, but Korvax's massive paw shoved him aside. "This one needs a lesson about respect," Korvax growled. "And you, defect, will learn what happens when you get in my way." Xiron tried to speak, to tell them he hadn't meant any trouble. Nothing came out. Pain clawed at him, his voice failing. Even if he could speak, who would listen? The galaxy had no use for defects. Even his family had abandoned him. As Korvax raised his fist, Xiron braced for the blow. A sharp, calm voice interrupted. "That's enough." Xiron froze. He barely recognized the sound over his pain. Human. Not Korvax. Not any other alien. His attacker's grip loosened slightly. "What?" Korvax barked. "I said, that's enough," the voice repeated. Xiron cracked one eye open. At the corridor entrance stood 3 humans. Their presence was unexpected. Fragile compared to Korvax and his crew, yet their stance was firm. The lead human, A woman with dark skin and hair pulled tight stared directly at Korvax. Stripes on her uniform marked authority, and her eyes burned with a calm intensity. "Walk away," Korvax snarled. "Not going to happen," she replied. Behind her, a young male human moved into position, ready. A third human, slightly older, carried a small medical kit and knelt near Zyron. Korvax laughed, showing his teeth. "3 against my crew? You humans are truly foolish. Size isn't everything," the woman said. Her smile was not friendly, it was warning. Theo, the medic, quickly examined Zyron. "Cracked ribs, severe bruising, possible internal bleeding," he muttered quietly. "You hear that?" the woman said, turning to Korvax. "You are beating a disabled alien half to death. And you call it honor." Korvax's sneer did not falter. "Honor? Nature. The weak are culled. That is how the galaxy works." "Not anymore," she said. Zyron felt his vision blur from pain, but hope stirred inside him. These humans, strangers, stood between him and death. He didn't understand why. They gained nothing by saving him. Yet here they were. The tactical mind of the woman, Lyra Hale, calculated angles and responses. For enemies, injured civilian, confined corridor. She remained calm, ready. Anger simmered beneath the surface, but it was controlled. Korvax's crew tensed. They expected the humans to back down. Most species did, but not these humans. "Jace," Lyra ordered, nodding to the young soldier. "Call it in. Private Jace Corrin to Defiant. Maintenance Corridor 7 Beta. Requesting backup and command presence," he said, activating his comm. Korvax's eyes narrowed. "You are making a mistake, human." "No," Lyra said. "You made the mistake when you decided beating someone to death was acceptable." Zyron's fur was matted with blood, his body bruised and trembling. He realized these humans were not here to exploit him. They were here to protect him. And for the first time in years, he felt hope. Theo checked Zyron's injuries more thoroughly. "These are not new wounds," he muttered. "Someone has been using him as a punching bag for months." Lyra's jaw tightened. She had seen cruelty before on Earth. But this was different. This was galaxy-wide. Species treating others as property, beating those who could not defend themselves. And now Zyron was the target. Korvax's sneer faltered slightly under the human's steady presence. "You have no authority here," he growled. "I am station security," he said. "No," Lyra replied firmly. "You are a bully, and bullies do not decide who lives or dies. We do not walk away while you try to kill him." Zyron felt faint, but a strange warmth spread through him. Someone cared. Someone was on his side. Maybe, just maybe, he could survive this. The humans stood firm, blocking the path, refusing to back down. Zyron realized something incredible. Even in the harshest parts of the galaxy, there were those willing to protect the weak. And for the first time, he dared to hope. Zyron lay on the cold metal floor, trembling and in pain. Each breath was a struggle, his cracked ribs and bruised body reminding him how close he had come to death. Korvax and his crew still lingered, growling, but they hesitated. The humans standing in the corridor had changed everything. The leader, Captain Lyra Hale, took a step forward. Her dark eyes burned with determination. "Let him go," she said calmly. Her voice carried authority that the Urgith enforcer could not ignore. Korvax snorted. "Why should I? He's a defect. Worthless. You humans have no power here." Lyra's gaze did not waver. Power isn't just strength. It's knowing what is right. And right now, beating him is wrong. Behind Lyra, Private Jace Corrin shifted slightly, ready to act. The third human, Dr. Theo Marcus, knelt beside Zyron, his medical kit open. He quickly assessed Zyron's injuries. Cracked ribs, severe bruising, torn fur, and old scars from months of abuse. "His condition is serious," Theo muttered quietly. "This isn't a one-time attack. Someone's been hurting him for months." Zyron's vision blurred, but hope stirred inside him. For the first time in years, he realized someone cared about his life. Someone was willing to put themselves in danger to protect him. Korvax, Lyra said, her tone sharper now. You've crossed a line. Stop this now or face the consequences. The Urgoth laughed, but the laughter had lost its confidence. He barked orders to his crew, but the humans did not back down. The tension in the corridor was almost physical. Zyron's chest hurt too much to breathe easily, yet he watched with a mix of fear and awe. Theo gently touched Zyron's arm. Stay still. Breathe slowly. You're safe for now, he said. Zyron's ears, dulled by his damaged sensory organ, barely caught the calm, soothing words. But they mattered. For the first time, someone spoke to him as a living being, not a worthless defect. Lyra stepped closer to Korvax. You're abusing your position, she said firmly. Station security exists to protect the weak, not punish them. We are reporting this. You will answer for your actions. Korvax's eyes narrowed. Report all you want. Who will believe you over us? This station has rules. He's defective. I was correcting the imbalance. The imbalance? Lyra said, incredulous. You call this abuse? You call trying to kill a disabled alien correction? You're a bully hiding behind authority. Korvax growled, flexing his massive claws. But he hesitated. The humans did not fear him, and that made him uneasy. His crew, trained to intimidate and fight, shifted nervously. They were strong, yes, but these humans were organized, strategic, and unafraid. Theo continued his work, cleaning Zyron's wounds and checking for fractures. He's weak from neglect and abuse, he said softly. If he had been left any longer, he might not have survived. Zyron felt a strange warmth. Someone cared. Someone was here because it mattered, not for profit or fear. Humans could be unpredictable, but in this moment, they were his lifeline. Lyra turned to Jace. Call it in again. Make sure command knows the situation is under control but urgent. This is not just abuse, it's attempted murder. Jace nodded, activating his comm unit. Private Jace Corrin to Defiant. Situation in Maintenance Corridor 7 Beta. Injured civilian, multiple hostile combatants. Backup requested immediately. End report. Korvax's sneer faltered. You think your species can stop me? He snarled. Lyra's expression was calm but deadly. We don't think. We know. You made the mistake when you decided to harm him. That's your choice. We are protecting him, that is ours. Zyron's vision went dim for a moment. Pain was still there, sharp and unrelenting. But a new feeling bloomed inside him, hope. The humans did not need to protect him. They had nothing to gain, yet they risked themselves. For him. For a creature Korvax had called worthless. Korvax growled and stepped closer, but the humans held their ground. Lyra's voice was steady. Korvax, let go. This is over. You do not get to choose who lives or dies here. One of Korvax's crew members shifted to attack, but Lyra raised a hand. Stop. Move aside. Or face consequences you cannot imagine. For a moment, the corridor was silent, save for Zyron's labored breathing and the distant hum of the station. Then Korvax finally grunted and backed away, his crew following reluctantly. Zyron collapsed, weak but alive. Theo immediately supported him, examining his injuries with precise, efficient movements. You're going to be okay, Theo said. It will take time, but you will survive this. Zyron's eyes filled with tears he hadn't shed in years. He tried to speak, but only a weak whisper emerged. Thank you. Lyra knelt beside him, her gaze steady. You're not alone. You're not a defect. You're alive, and that matters. That's enough for today. The humans stood together, facing the corridor, ready for whatever might come next. Korvax and his crew had retreated for now. Zyron felt a fragile thread of hope connect him to them, a thread that might grow stronger in the days to come. But even as he rested, he knew the galaxy was full of predators, and not all would be stopped by humans. This was only the beginning. Zyron took a shaky breath, realizing something remarkable. Even in the darkest corners of space, courage and compassion could exist. and he had just witnessed it firsthand. Korvax's claws scraped against the metal floor as he circled the humans, his anger barely contained. His massive crew mirrored his movements, muscles tensed, ready to strike. The corridor felt smaller now, the walls closing in as tension thickened the air. Xiron, still weak and trembling, stayed on the floor, barely able to watch. Every nerve in his body screamed pain, yet something inside him told him to keep his eyes open. "Humans," Korvax growled. "You're interfering in matters that don't concern you. Leave, and no one gets hurt." Lyra Hale's eyes narrowed. "Interfering? No. We are standing for justice. You attacked a disabled alien. That concerns all of us." Korvax barked a laugh, full of derision. "Justice? You have no idea what you're talking about. He's defective. He has no right to exist." Lyra stepped closer, unafraid of the massive Urgith. "Defective? He is alive. He has a right to live, and we will not let you harm him." Behind her, Private Jace Corrin checked his comm unit, ready to call for backup at the first sign of violence. Dr. Theo Marcus continued to stabilize Xiron, ensuring he could breathe without collapsing completely. The humans were calm, precise, and completely unafraid, a stark contrast to Korvax's crew, who were used to fear controlling others. Korvax's sneer faltered slightly. No one had ever faced him like this. Most species ran, cried, or submitted when confronted. These humans stood their ground, their calm presence a shield Xiron could only marvel at. "You are making a grave mistake," Korvax hissed. "I am station security. I enforce the rules." Lyra's voice remained steady. "Rules? You call killing a disabled being enforcement? We enforce the rights of all sentient creatures here. And that includes him." Korvax's crew tensed. They were trained to intimidate and fight, to crush anyone in their path. But the humans were not typical victims. They were strategic, coordinated, and willing to stand against overwhelming odds. Xiron, lying weak on the floor, felt a flicker of courage. He had never imagined anyone would defend him so fiercely, so completely. He whispered to himself, They care. They really care." Lyra's tone sharpened. "Jace, call it in again. Make sure command knows this is urgent." Jace nodded, speaking clearly into his comm. Private Jace Corrin to Defiant. Situation in Maintenance Corridor 7 Beta. Hostile enforcers, disabled civilian at risk. Immediate backup requested. End report. Korvax's eyes narrowed. "Humans, always interfering. You will regret this." "You've already made your choice," Lyra said. "We made ours. We protect the weak. That is our choice, and it is not negotiable." Theo finished stabilizing Xiron and helped him sit up slightly. "He's been through months of abuse," Theo said quietly. "This isn't just today. He's been beaten repeatedly." Xiron's ears caught only fragments of their words, but they were enough. Hope and gratitude filled him. Humans risked themselves to save him, not for money, not for glory, but because it was right. Something he had never experienced in all his years on Unity Station. Korvax growled again, this time more uncertainly. He gestured to his crew. "Attack them. Now!" The three humans reacted instantly. Lyra positioned herself between Xiron and the Urgith, ready to block any strike. Jace moved to flank, covering angles. Theo, though a medic, stood firm, prepared to defend as well. Before the first blow could land, a loud comm alarm echoed through the corridor. Station security personnel were arriving. Korvax's crew froze, realizing they were no longer in control. Lyra kept her eyes locked on Korvax. "This ends now. Your authority doesn't give you the right to harm the defenseless. Stand down." Korvax's massive chest heaved. Rage and frustration battled his pride. The humans, calm and unwavering, had changed the balance of power in the corridor. For the first time, Korvax faced a threat he could not simply overpower. Xiron, still weak, felt a surge of something he had never imagined possible. Courage. If these humans could stand against Korvax and his crew, maybe survival, maybe even justice was not impossible. The sound of boots grew louder as station security rounded the corner, lights flashing, weapons raised. Korvax's crew hesitated, and Korvax himself growled, stepping back. The humans did not relax. They were ready to protect Xiron and confront Korvax if necessary. Xiron's eyes, though blurry and filled with tears, focused on the humans. For the first time, he felt safe. And for the first time, he believed that even in a galaxy ruled by the strong and cruel, hope could exist. But as the corridor filled with station security, Korvax's glare promised that this confrontation was far from over. The humans had bought Xiron time, but the fight for his survival and for justice was just beginning. The corridor was alive with the sound of boots echoing off metal walls. Station security had arrived, weapons drawn but non-lethal, ready to restore order. Korvax's massive form loomed in the center, his crew tense and uncertain. For the first time, he felt the weight of authority against him. Captain Lyra Hale remained calm, standing beside Xiron. "He's injured," she said firmly, nodding to Theo, who had been checking Xiron's ribs and bruises. "We have evidence of abuse and attempted murder. These actions will not go unpunished." Korvax's jaw tightened. "You humans have no authority here. This is my domain. He's defective. I was enforcing station rules." Lyra shook her head. "Rules? Abuse and attempted killing aren't rules. They're crimes. Station regulations exist to protect all sentient beings, not to give bullies power over the weak." At that moment, Administrator Bellis, a tall Trellin with a stern expression, arrived with several senior officers. His eyes swept the corridor, taking in the scene. Xiron on the floor, Korvax glaring, his crew flanking him, and the three humans standing firm. "Explain this," Bellis demanded. His voice carried the weight of authority that even Korvax respected or feared. Korvax stepped forward, chest swelling. "This alien damaged station property and disrespected my uniform. I was correcting the imbalance." Lyra's voice was sharp, unwavering. "Correcting the imbalance? You were beating a disabled alien nearly to death. That's not correction. That's assault. That's attempted murder." Xiron, still weak, managed to sit up slightly, his bloodied fur and bruises visible. Theo spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "Administrator, he's in serious condition. Multiple fractures, old scars. He's been abused repeatedly, likely over months. This is a pattern, not an accident." Bellis's eyes narrowed as he looked at Korvax. "Is this true?" he asked, voice low but commanding. Korvax's massive frame stiffened. "He is defective. He caused damage. He deserved." "Enough!" Bellis's roar echoed through the corridor. "You have abused your position. You are relieved of your duties immediately. This station does not condone violence against the weak. Your actions will be investigated thoroughly." Korvax's crew shifted nervously. The fear that usually gripped others now touched them. Humans were firm, but Bellis's authority was undeniable. The combination left Korvax powerless, and the truth of his cruelty was exposed. Xiron's body trembled as he realized he was safe, for the first time in months, maybe years. Theo helped him to his feet, supporting his weight carefully. "You're going to be okay now," Theo said. "We'll make sure of it." Lyra placed a hand gently on Xiron's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore. No one has the right to hurt you. Not here, not anywhere." Korvax glared one last time, frustration and disbelief in his eyes, before being led away by security. His crew followed silently, their arrogance broken by the intervention of humans and the weight of station authority. Xiron's vision blurred, not from pain this time, but from relief. Hope, fragile yet powerful, filled him. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but some beings, like Lyra, Jace, and Theo, were willing to stand for what was right. That was a rare and beautiful thing. As the corridor slowly emptied, the humans helped Xiron toward a safer section of the station. Theo examined his injuries carefully while Lyra and Jace ensured no one lingered to cause trouble. "You saved me," Xiron whispered, his voice weak. "You didn't need saving alone," Lyra said softly. "We all have a choice. Today we chose to protect you." Zyron felt gratitude stronger than he had ever imagined. These humans, small and fragile compared to Korvax, had faced overwhelming odds and had stood firm. They hadn't just defended him, they had restored his faith in life itself. Yet, even in this victory, a shadow lingered. The galaxy was still full of predators. Station life could be cruel, and there would always be others like Korvax. Zyron knew he couldn't let his guard down completely. But for now he could breathe, he could rest, and he could hope. Lyra looked down at him, her eyes scanning the quieted corridor. Rest for now. There will be more to do, and you'll need your strength. Zyron nodded, exhausted but alive. A faint smile touched his lips. In a universe that often favored the strong and merciless, courage, compassion, and morality had triumphed today. And for the first time in years, Zyron believed in something more than mere survival. He believed in hope. Zyron leaned against the cool wall of the safe corridor, still trembling from the ordeal. The pain in his ribs was sharp, but it was not as frightening as the fear that had haunted him for months. Captain Lyra Hale, Private Jace Corrin, and Dr. Theo Marcus stood close, watching him carefully, making sure he was not in danger. Zyron, Lyra said gently, do you understand what just happened? He shook his head weakly. I don't know. I've never stood up for me like this. Lyra's expression softened. You have value. Your life matters. It doesn't matter if you are weak, disabled, or different. That doesn't make you less than anyone else. Zyron's damaged sensory organ twitched as he tried to absorb the words. For years, he had believed he was worthless, a burden, a mistake. Every day on Unity Station had reinforced that idea. But the humans' courage, their willingness to risk themselves to protect him, challenged everything he thought he knew. Theo knelt beside him, gently examining his bruises. You're stronger than you think. Not because of your body, but because of your spirit. You survived months of abuse and a near-fatal attack. That takes strength most beings will never know. Zyron's gaze lingered on Lyra. But why did you help me? You didn't have to. You gained nothing from this. Lyra looked him in the eyes. That's exactly why we helped. Strength is not about taking advantage of the weak. It's about standing for what is right. Sometimes the bravest thing a being can do is protect others, even when there is nothing to gain. Jace, the young human soldier, added quietly, everyone deserves dignity. You might be small or weak or disabled, but that doesn't make you less alive. It doesn't make your life less important. Zyron felt a lump in his throat. No one had ever said such words to him. No one had ever treated him like a being worth protecting. The idea that he mattered, it was overwhelming yet comforting. Lyra continued, the galaxy can be cruel. There are beings like Korvax who believe in strength above morality. But morality, compassion, and courage, these are what make a species truly strong. That is something we humans have learned over centuries. We survive because we care for each other, not because we dominate others. Zyron struggled to speak, his voice weak. I've never believed anyone could care like that. Lyra smiled, faint but warm. It's not common, but it exists, and today you've seen it firsthand. Even in a place as harsh as Unity Station, courage and morality can win. You're part of that now, Zyron, and you can carry it forward. Theo placed a gentle hand on Zyron's shoulder. You've been through pain, yes, but you're alive. You have a chance to live differently now, to be safe, and maybe one day to help others who cannot defend themselves. Zyron's vision blurred again, but this time from emotion, not just pain. He realized something profound. Life did not have to be about suffering. Strength did not have to mean cruelty. The humans had shown him another path, a way of living where compassion, courage, and morality mattered more than brute force. Lyra looked down the corridor. We've bought you time, Zyron, but the galaxy is still dangerous. There will be others who see weakness and try to exploit it. Remember what you've learned today. Stand tall even if your body is small or broken. Courage comes from the heart, not the claws or muscles. Zyron nodded slowly, a flicker of determination growing inside him. He had survived because of the humans, but he realized that surviving alone was not enough. He wanted to carry the lesson of today forward. "Thank you," he whispered, barely audible. I will remember." Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Good. Now rest. There will be time to rebuild, to recover, and to find your place in the galaxy. But never forget this. Even the smallest and weakest have the power to survive and make a difference when they believe in themselves, and when others stand beside them." Zyron's body leaned back, exhausted, but his mind felt lighter. The galaxy was harsh, yes, but hope had reached him. Courage had reached him, and for the first time he believed that maybe, just maybe, he could survive and thrive. Outside the safe corridor, Unity Station continued its chaotic hum. Traders shouted, ships docked and undocked, and life went on. But in that small corner, one alien had discovered something far more valuable than survival: the meaning of courage, dignity, and hope. And though the galaxy remained full of danger, Zyron knew one thing for certain: he was no longer alone. The corridor was quiet now, except for the soft hum of Unity Station. Zyron leaned against the wall, his body still aching from the injuries he had suffered, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. He had survived, and more importantly, he had learned something he never thought possible. He mattered. Lyra Hale, Jace Corrin, and Dr. Theo Marcus stayed close, ensuring he was steady on his feet. Zyron glanced at them, gratitude and wonder filling his chest. I don't know how to thank you," he said softly. Lyra shook her head. "No thanks needed. We did what was right. That's enough. You survived, and that matters more than anything." Theo adjusted his medical kit. "Your injuries are serious, but they're manageable. With time and care, you'll recover fully, and you'll be stronger, not just in body, but in spirit." Zyron looked out over the docking bay from the upper walkway of the safe corridor. Ships of every shape and size moved with precision, carrying traders, explorers, and travelers from one part of the galaxy to another. The station was still chaotic, still dangerous, but it felt smaller, more bearable somehow. Jace spoke quietly. "You know, Zyron, this could have ended very differently. Most beings would have just ignored you or worse. But we don't give up on those who can't protect themselves. That's how humans survive out here." Zyron nodded slowly, absorbing every word. For so long, he had believed his life had no value. He had been beaten, ignored, abandoned. But the humans had shown him that courage and morality could exist even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Lyra's gaze met his. "You've learned something important today. Don't forget it. Even when the galaxy seems cruel, remember that strength is not only about power. It's about standing up for what is right and helping others when you can." Zyron's eyes, still blurry from pain but clearer in spirit, reflected a newfound determination. I will remember. I want to help others. Someday, maybe." Theo smiled faintly. "And you can. For now, focus on getting better. Your journey isn't over. It's just beginning." Outside, the sounds of Unity Station continued. Merchants haggling, ships docking, voices echoing in the distance. The world was vast and often dangerous, but Zyron no longer felt small or powerless. He had allies, he had hope, and he had the courage to survive whatever the galaxy threw at him next. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder one final time. "Rest now. When you're ready, there's a place for you with us. The galaxy may be harsh, but it is also full of opportunity. You've earned a chance to find your place in it." Zyron breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the past months slowly lifting. For the first time, he imagined a future not defined by fear and pain, but by possibility. He could learn, grow, and perhaps even make a difference in the lives of others who could not protect themselves. As he closed his eyes for a moment, the hum of the station felt less like chaos and more like life itself. Messy, unpredictable, but full of potential. The galaxy had been cruel, yes, but courage and morality had triumphed today. And Zyron would carry that lesson forward, wherever his path led. The journey had ended for now, But the adventure of life, of survival, of hope, was just beginning.